Friends, family, and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Del Boy blog. And today we're going to date this, as always, year 4 blog 12, or in legacy numbers, blog 168, or it's the 11th of May 2025. Yeah, I had to think then. My mind, I tell you. Yes, I'm still suffering from sleep deprivation, but hey, let's see how long we can last this time. It wasn't a great week last week, but it's been a lovely weather-wise. It's been a lovely week. It's been sunny. Apparently, the first change of weather might be thunderstorms. Expected, really, because of the nice sunny weather that we've had. But, you know, my garden could definitely do with a little bit of water. So I'm happy that might occur. But we'll start off as we always do, I think, with the news. Let's get the news out of the way. And we start off with the war. And I read a news article this morning. It said Putin has ignored calls from Western leaders for a 30-day ceasefire, instead proposing direct talks with Ukraine. Putin's proposal is requested as May 15th in Istanbul with help of the Turkish president. Ukraine has insisted there must be no direct talks without a pause in hostilities, further insisting that Putin is using delay tactics again. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I do understand this tit for tat. This well, if you're proposing this, then I propose this. But there are certain things that have already been that have gone down the wayside. Signing mineral agreements, that sort of thing, talks in certain countries. Leaders getting together, all looking for peace and security. And if Ukraine has to bend any more, then bloody hell. That's how I look at it at the moment. I just think, my God, how much more do you want him to bend over? I mean, it's pretty bad. Why can't you just say, yeah, do the 30-day ceasefire, okay? But I'm going to insist that it's at this location. At least he then looks like he's listening. But at the moment, it's like, oh, I'll have direct talks with you. But I'm going to have it where I want. And I'm not going to talk about any ceasefires either while it's going on. It's like it's his way or the highway. And that's one of the faults that I find in Putin. You know, I don't have really any opinions or strongly on this because it doesn't really affect me other than the way it does for the world. But I just don't get this. It's almost like you're going to do it my way. You will do it my way. And that's it. And it just doesn't seem genuine. But my hopes are that we get an end soon. As I've mentioned in other blogs, it's the war started 2 weeks before I even started doing things on YouTube like this blog. So wouldn't it be great that I started off my blog without the war? My God, we'd get through it so much quicker. So we'll move on and we'll go to the rest of the world. Doesn't seem much better here either. On Monday, Trump authorized the process to impose 100% tariffs on films being made outside of America. So Trump is basically saying that America has been shafted for its film industry for decades, and he wants to bring it back to fruition. My God, man. So what you're saying is every film needs to be filmed in America. Any other film, tariff, etc., etc., etc. Nah, But apparently he softened his stance on it by saying he would be speaking to the industry before imposing anything. But all that does is just put, delay on things, and people are going, oh, what if he does do this? What if he doesn't do that? And the whole industry then becomes frozen and stagnated. So, yeah, not brilliant. Moving on, the UK announced 2 trade deals, one with America and one with India. Pure speculation happened after that for days and days and days. Was it a good deal with America? Was it a good deal with India? Etc., etc., etc. The very nature of the fact that trade deals are happening is great. But yeah, a bad deal is a bad deal. Apparently, this one strengthens Britain's steel industry and car industry. We will see. If everything else falls by the wayside, apart from steel and cars, then it's a bad deal. But we'll see. We'll see how things go. Thursday was VE Day. Yes, if you don't know what was going on Thursday, then I don't know what your news is like in your country. But it was the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. And it was all over the news, celebrations going on around the world. Even I believe other countries such as, I think Russia was in the news, because they showed off a march through the main square in Russia. All I know is that thank God that we're past that point. No world wars have ended for 80 years. Wars continue. Let's end wars. I don't think that'll probably ever happen in my lifetime. But a celebration day. I know that when I was at work, we had I think it was a 2-minute silence. 2-minute silence at 12 o'clock on Thursday. I actually participated. And, other than that, Thursday was, well, I'll talk about my week a little bit later on. But the only other news was that we got a new pope that was announced. It's Pope Leo. That happened earlier in the week. It's that same ritual of black smoke coming out of a particular building, and then it turns to white smoke, and suddenly you have an announcement, and there's lots of religious events going into the church welcoming him, etc., etc. So of course it was a world event, and I wish that new pope well. Such a shame what happened over the bank holiday weekend, the Easter weekend. So let's hope that it's a good start for the new pope. And then we sort of get to my week, and it's been an absolute disaster of a week. I will say that. My face may not show it, but it's been very, very poor. And all I can hope for is that if disasters do come in threes, let's hope that's the end. Because as far as I'm concerned, this month can go do one. But we'll start off bank holiday Monday. It was a normal sort of bank holiday, really. Just trying to think what really happened. There wasn't an awful lot. Bank holidays to me, since what's happened to my mother, have been normal days, because I need to spend as much time with my mum or checking on my mum as possible. And without the nurses, I don't seem to get a respite. My sister's always said, well, you can have a little bit longer. You can be away for an hour. But, you need a normal life, and I don't think that's ever going to happen, which is why I've always turned around and said I'm just looking for that new norm, the normality. And if that is me leaving this room, going off and seeing if my mother's okay for every half hour, and I do that all the way through the core of the day, which is really, from what I can tell, 7 o'clock in the morning till 9:30 at night, then so be it. But it's very tiring. And at the moment, I just want my mum to be well, so I live with it. But there you go. So Tuesday came along, and Tuesday is back to work, because it's a short week: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because of the bank holiday. And I had to go and get something from some shopping, which would require heavier items to pick up. So I went to the Sainsbury's to pick up things like canned goods and heavier items and bigger items that I can't carry. And something called a DPF fault came on my car. When I looked it up, it was the diesel particulate filter. Now, it's never happened to me before, but I should have expected it. It was something that was mentioned to me when I first bought my first ever diesel. A friend of mine at work said, you might have to go on long journeys every month or every half hour. Or every once a week or something, because there is what they call a diesel filter that clogs up. And unless you actually go on long journeys, that soot will build up. It's got what they call a regenerative cycle. Well, of course, ever since I've had the car, I've travelled to work, once or twice a week. Even before my mother's problems, I was going once a week. And of course, it's never come up, but this light come up, and I went, oh no, can I have any more bad luck, my God, in my life? But I got home, I looked it up, and it said, do not ignore this note, but the problem could be as simple as this or as expensive as this. And the simple one was, go on a long journey. Have your car doing 2,500 revs for at least 35 minutes, preferably on a motorway, uninterrupted. You may find that the light will go out and the filter will regenerate and clear itself. And lo and behold, I asked my sister to stay for an extra hour. I got in my car. It was at a time where the motorways would be busy, so I chose going to my grandfather's old house, Long Itchington. I thought I'll travel along this road because it's a road that allows you to go at 60 miles an hour for quite a big chunk of it. And I got about halfway along and the light went out. Amazing. Brilliant. So as soon as the light went out, I turned round, and of course I then travelled back, and I must have got 13 miles outside of town before the light went out. And when I turned round, the light remained out, and when I turned the engine off when I got home, everything was okay. When I turned it on, it didn't come back on. So I thought, wow, might have dodged a bullet here. I could do without heart attacks and more worry. So I was happy with that. And that's about the only thing that sort of like happened on Tuesday. And Wednesday was equally quite subdued, in that it was a normal day at work, and I had my lovely chat with Ian Hill, the Ramblings, where I do a live broadcast on a Wednesday. It worries me a little bit that I have to go away in the first hour every so often to check my mother. But as soon as my mother is in bed, the panic button alarm comes on, and I'm able to stay the course without having to disappear, because it's every half hour, if you see what I mean. So I find it disruptive, but he's been very, very good about it, and we have a great time, and we equally had a good time this week talking about all sorts of films. I learned about all sorts of films that are coming because I've been a little bit out of the market in regards to what's coming up and what's just come out, and what's out for pre-order and all that sort of stuff. You take the eye off the prize a little bit because you're so concentrating on the health of a loved one. So it's really good, and I find it very beneficial. And I tell you what, the amount of support I get from Ian and all of the people that are in there is just so heartwarming. It's brilliant. It's my distraction of the week, and I can't tell you how serious I am when I say if that was taken away from me, my God, I don't know what I'd be like. I mean, obviously, you'll always turn around and say you'd find a way, but it'd be a bit of a killer for me. So thank you very much, Ian, for the lovely chats that we have on a Wednesday. On Thursday, as I mentioned before, it was VE Day. So I do remember when I went into work, we got the emails that said how we were celebrating it at work, the 2-minute silence, etc., etc. Because I get the paper for my mum every day, I just happened to mention to my mum, do you know what VE Day is? And this is where it gets a little bit dark, because she didn't know what VE Day was. And I happened to mention, do you know what the World War was? For which she said, yes, of course I do. And I said, do you know how many world wars we had? And she got it right, but she had to think for a moment. And I said, do you know who Adolf Hitler was? And she knew that instantly. And I said, do you know how old you were when the war ended? Which she couldn't remember. So there were a number of things there that concerned me, because that's long-term memory. And so far it's been the short-term memory that's been the issue. Although we have noticed certain long-term memory issues over the last 8 weeks. But my mother's been good with names and numbers. And she's all right with vocabulary as well. If I was to go up to her and say, Mum, do you know what coercion means? Because I did ask her that. She said, of course I know what coercion is. And she told me the definition of it. So that isn't a problem. But to not, I mean, if she'd have told me that she couldn't remember how many world wars there were, I might be a bit more on red alert than I am. But that's the sort of thing that I do. I try and bring in some memory games every day. And the other thing that happened on Thursday, we got a phone call stating that the table that goes around my mother's recliner chair will be delivered on Monday. That was good news, because we're looking forward to having her being able to rest her paper on a table, have a cup of tea on the table. But more importantly, I'd like her to do some things like some jigsaw puzzles, something that occupies her mind. Because at the moment, what she does do an awful lot of is sleep. So yeah, that's another thing that we're noticing. And then Friday was the worst day. Friday was the day where I'm supposed to take my mum to get her hair done, and I was so looking forward to this, because my mum always has a smile on her face when she comes out. She has her hair done, and it's a lot of work for me, because I have to go to work, then I have to stop, drive her down there, walk her into the hairdressers, travel back within 40 minutes, reverse the whole thing again, travel back down, pick her up, get her into the house, get her a cup of tea, and then go back to work. and then have lunch, and then there's the afternoon, and that's the day gone. Do you see what I mean? It's like, wow, Friday goes like in a blink like this. But I went out to go to the car to move it away from the brick wall so that my mum can get in on the passenger side of the car. And always, I turn the ignition on, but you turn the ignition on while also pushing the clutch down, and the clutch fell to the floor like that. I went, oh no. So the clutch remained on the floor of the car, and I could pull it up, but it was, as soon as I pressed it, it slunk straight back down again. And you know, everything to me, just my world just sort of like fell apart, because I know how much clutches cost. But I remember that I had the clutch master cylinder changed in November last year, and I had the MOT done only a month ago. So I prayed that it might be something simple, because if you do look up your own, you know, what possible reasons things like this can happen, you do read things like, oh, it could be that your clutch fluid's low, air in the clutch fluid. It could be if your car uses a cable, it could be just the clutch cable. It could be the master cylinder head. As you know, I had that changed, so we hope that it wasn't that. And then it looks at the more expensive ones. It could be the hydraulic system, the clutch plate, the flywheel, and everything else that goes along with a clutch. So the thing that came to mind with that is where am I going to get the money? Secondly, it was, how am I going to get it repaired? It's stuck on my drive. I haven't got home pickup, if you see what I mean. So I phoned up the garage that we've always used. And he said he couldn't do anything till Monday. And I told him, you know, if anything gets cancelled, can you just give me a bell? And he said yes. And so it was set for the car to be picked up on Monday. And while that was going on, I was phoning up some other garages, and I heard the bad news on how much it would be if it was a big job. And I was quoted with one garage £1,150 plus the pickup of the vehicle. So I thought to myself, well, at least I know ballpark figure what the top figure might be. Spoke to a few people at work, and they said, oh, I've just had my clutch done and it was 600. So I was going, right, so it's any figure now between 600 and 1,150 as a big job. Of course, the person who had their clutch done that was £600 was a Skoda, but at least it's ballpark figure time, and Skoda is still owned by the Volkswagen Group. So mine's an Audi, by the way. So I had to get some shopping. Had to bite the bullet. When I did my shopping and the phone went, and it was actually a pickup truck driver saying, I've just had the garage phone me up and I can pick up your car today if it's convenient for you. And I said, oh yeah, marvellous. I thought this was a brilliant, fantastic. I might get it done quicker. And I told him that I was just doing the shopping, but I'd be home in half an hour. And he said, yeah, half an hour suits me fine, no problem. And I got home, put the shopping away, and he turned up, and I took my house key off of, I took another key off of it. It wasn't the house key, it was the shed key off of it, so that there was just the normal key on it. And he looked at it and went, yeah, it's your Audi, by the way, uses a hydraulic system, so it won't be a cable. So that sort of like filled me with it's going to be the worst case scenario. And I asked him, does this mean that the garage is going to do it today? And he said, oh, you'd have to phone the garage for that. I just know that I can get your car down there, which means he can operate on it sooner, can't he? I went, yeah, that's great. I heard nothing for a couple of hours. I spoke to my friend Denny after work. We had a nice chat. And yeah, we were talking about his problems and my problems, and it was nice because I was able to vent and all of that sort of stuff. And I was chatting to Denny, a call came through from the garage, and that's where my jaw sort of like dropped a little bit, because I said, please tell me the bad news. And he said, unfortunately, it is bad news. And I said, oh, right. So it's not the master cylinder head. And he went, no, it's not. All that work is perfectly fine. The problem you've got is you do need a new clutch, and you need to drop the gearbox to get to it. And that's going to be the expensive bit, because it's the labour that's required for it. I said, tell me the figure. And he said, minimum £900. So, of course, I took a deep breath and I just went, well, it's got to be done. How can I not care for my mother without having a car? Am I supposed to get to work even once a month without a car? It's got to be done. So I authorized him to do the job. I said, please, whichever you can do, I want the car to be safe. But if there's anything that you can cut the cost down on, please do so. And he said, well, he knew it was the clutch plate, so it's going to need a new one of those. But if he can do anything, like if the flywheel is fine, then of course that will drop the price, and he'll do all he can. So then I asked him, are you working on it now? And he said, we will be working on it from now, but we only work half a day on Saturday. So it might be done by Saturday, but it's more likely it'll be done Monday. I said, okay. And then I asked him about whether he can accept me paying half now and half at the end of the month, which unfortunately he couldn't do. And I then had to spend the rest of Friday juggling figures with my savings, my credit cards, and my normal wages. Because like anybody, if you're paid monthly, you tend to get to the middle of the month, and we are at the 11th. And a big chunk of my bills are paid right at the beginning. My money goes out sort of around like the 3rd and the 4th of the month, the big chunks, leaving just the odd little odds and sods, for which then I know, therefore, what I can live on. And yeah, it's going to be tricky. Automatically already, I've transferred £500 out of my savings account into my normal account. And I've had to tell my sister that I'll do everything I can to still give her the £1,000 she needs for a car in a month's time. But it might be that I'll only be able to give her like 700 or whatever it is, because my money will regenerate, and it regenerates by £150 per month, which is how much money goes in to my savings account each month every time my wages go in. So if I've taken out 500, it will be like I took out 350 by the end of the month, and then by the end of the following month it will be like you can do the maths. It's not difficult. So what you have to understand here is that nothing is more important than looking after my mum, but I've got to look after my car as much as my sister needs a car. We'll have to work out what we can do about that a little way down the line. And I was going to put £1,000 aside at the end of this month coming. It looks very much like I'll only be able to put like 600 or 700 aside, and then add another 150 of my wages to that, giving it 850, and then hope that my sister doesn't need a car until the following month, which would give her the 1,000 that she needs, or she could find the 150 herself. It's difficult. I've got to still juggle figures around to make this work. So, if you can measure weeks in disasters, I've had one of the roughest weeks going. And it's all to do with money. And, you know, as it always has been with this no power of attorney, and you know, and me using my money to buy things like incontinence pads and duvet covers and sheets and the food shopping and just it's just that the food shopping went up by a good £30 a week as soon as this happened for my mum, because of the amount of creams and things I have to buy. You know what I mean? The pads, the creams, have all added to it, plus the extra things like that we've needed for quality of life, an air fryer, a kettle, which, you know, we've bought one of these Brita kettles that uses Brita water filters, which means no lime scale, cleaner water, and therefore fresher, healthier water for my mother. All of those sort of things have come into play, and I've been a little bit like a dripping tap, using my money for the majority of it. So yeah, I've not been able to regenerate any of my money, and I've worked out that it would take me another 3 months like this month, and I would have used up my slush fund, as I call it, of a savings account, not my major saving account. My major saving account has got money that I'm supposed to buy this house with when, you know, when I need to buy my sister off, and that's not being touched at the moment. So yeah, we're living off of my mum's state pension, my money, and that's it. Oh, the other thing that happened on Saturday was we fixed one half of the curtain rail in the main living room. The other side fell off. So yeah, there's the third. So you had that diesel particulate filter, the clutch, and the curtain rail on the right hand side fell. There's the third. So that's why I was talking about if disasters come in threes. Let's hope that's the end of it. So there we go. That's the end of that. And like I say, I used to like thinking it was called challenging. This was been disastrous, and I've just got my fingers crossed that I can do better next week. Let's watch this space. And that's the end of the news of my week. So let's move on now to the shout outs. And as you know, I'm very appreciative to all the people that have commented this week. They've all wished me well. Every single one makes me smile. And to be quite honest, right now I need them. I don't know what it'd be like to have no comment at all. It would be like silence. Do you know what I mean? It would be like you losing your hearing. An empty void where something was being filled all the other times. So a big thank you to all of these people, but also please a big thank you to everybody that watches this blog. You've all helped in many more ways than I could probably use the English language to portray, if you see what I mean. But here's the people that have left comments. They are Robert's Retro Gaming, Steve's Gaming, Ian Hill The Ramblings, Colin Jones, aka Ponder, LDH86, Martroid, Gans Teeth, Tony York, Wee Bob Art, and Seb's Place. Every single one of them fantastic. And my big thanks also to Ian Hill The Ramblings and Denny for the phone calls that they've made to me this week when I've had a pretty poor week. And the only other thing that I've been doing this week is I've started to do my friends' requests that have asked me to do some gaming by naming a game they'd like to see me play. I've had 2 that I did at the beginning of this week, and those were certainly distracting for me and so much fun to do. So my thanks to, let's see, was it Steve's Gaming and Colin Jones, aka Ponder, that suggested the 2 games so far. And of course, I will be contacting the rest of the friends to say I'm ready to do some more. So that will be happening very, very shortly. So to all those people that I've read out, thank you very much. I hope those shout outs are enough. I'm going to read out your comments shortly. Thanks to everybody who's made the phone call. And I'm just now going to check on my mother because 30 minutes has gone by if you haven't checked the clock already. And we'll continue when on my return, which will be in a couple of minutes. So it won't be long. And there we go. Minutes have just gone by. My mother's okay. My sister's with her. She's asleep, actually, at the moment. So best to keep her like that at the moment. And I'll see if I can get her an ice cream from the ice cream man. If I hear the ice cream man little chant in the background, which was bound sure to happen around about 2 or 3 o'clock this afternoon, that'd be nice, I think. One of my mum's favourite dishes at the moment, which I've been filling her with, is raspberries with vanilla ice cream and broken up meringue, which they're usually called messy or mess. So yeah, she's enjoying that, and I cook her a main meal every day. So that's all good as well. So let's read out, shall we? The people that I've done a shout out to earlier, and they're in no particular order. The first one I've got here, it just happens to be Robert's Retro Gaming. And let's see what he's put. He's put, "Hey Dell, it's a shame about the endless frustration from the Amazon seller and the home care organisation. Yeah, as you know, just look at last week. The chair debacle has sort of like come to an end. I never did get the phone call from Amazon. I find that despicable. They've decreased in my estimation on a good company based on that. And of course, as you know, I look after my mother with my sister now, and there's no nurses. So we're in the second week, and I'm still as tired. But that's where I was at the end of last week. I was exhausted. And that's probably where you saw the droopy face and the sleep deprivation type effects appear in the blog like last week. So he continues, "It seems like everyone is out to screw people over. I know that's not true, and there are plenty of reasonable and generous people in the world, but we seem to remember the bad ones the best." Yes, we do. It's that same old adage, you make a lasting impression with in the first 30 seconds of meeting someone. You do something bad, you remember it all your life nearly. So yeah, pretty poor. Understand that. "You and your sister are fighting the good fight. It can be tremendously difficult, and carer burnout is a real thing that you need to be aware of. Keep an eye on your sister and consider asking her to do the same for you. It might be worth having that conversation with her." Yes, we have it all the time. In fact, this week, on one of the days, I observed my sister trying to do all of the jobs herself without me interfering. In other words, I didn't operate the bed, I didn't do the toast, I didn't do the washing up, I didn't do the drying, I didn't help my mum out of the bed. I was there in case it was needed, and we just about got by with my sister in that first half hour of trying to get my mum out of bed. I wouldn't want that to happen, but if I was ever sick or anything, I know that it's a possibility. Now, the reverse has to be done. I have to try and do it myself, with my sister turning up and just observing, which will require me to wash my mother head to toe, which I'm not looking forward to. I don't mind emptying commodes and all of that sort of stuff. I've gotten used to the smells and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think that's going to be the hardest thing for me. Getting my mother out of bed, less so. I tend to be a little bit more hard-nosed about it than my sister. When my mum turns around and says no, she doesn't want to get out of bed, I'm the first that will give leeway for a first couple of minutes, and then I'll take the duvet cover off. and say, Mum, it's like a band-aid. I'm just going to pull this away. And when you're up, you're not even going to think about it. And that's generally what happens. So that's working. But yeah, the washing bit, I'm not looking forward to. I do like listening to blogs, and your observation about how it makes you feel are astute. I don't do that too much these days. It's mostly you with Mainmeister and Ponder occasionally. No knock on them at all. I really enjoy their blogs, but it's hard to find the time to listen and watch everything that I would like. I really, really do appreciate that. I don't know what to say other than thank you so much. I do hope you do find the time. They do some great blogs, and I list them in every blog I do. There hasn't been a time where I haven't been able to watch, but there's been times where I haven't been able to comment. But yes, there will be times where it's going to happen for me, and I'm going to feel bad, really bad about it. You continue, you don't have to be good at gaming to play in our high school competition. Very few people will make fun of you. I mean, I might, but everyone else is great about it. Oh, thanks very much. So you don't mind being a bastard, but everybody else will be all right. Actually, it's more to do with the time aspect of things. Do you know, I'd love to play the one that you're playing at the moment, because I think it's June 1st, if I remember rightly. I'd love to play that game. I played that to death for quite some time. Haven't played it for ages, but I just know that if I was to pick that up and put my arcade joystick on, I'd have a blast with it, and I'd start to get good, and I'd start to feel good about myself. It's just the time. Can't find it. Just can't. All the best to you, and I hope you are able to get some good rest this week. Let's hope. Let's hope all those disasters are gone, my friend. And thank you so much for your output, and salute to you. It's really appreciated. So I'm just going to take a little swig, and we'll move on to the next the next person. And it just happens to be Steve's Gaming, and you know what that means. That means I do my salute. Thanks very much, Steve. You bastard! I fucking hate you, you little git. Your bloody YouTube channel's just too fucking good, you git. Yeah. I'm so glad I'm doing that again. I just like thinking about what he's doing. He's probably going, oh yeah, doing that again. But I love doing it. It's amazing. And we'll read out what Steve's got to say. He's got, hi Del. Enjoyed the blog as always. It's really important part of my Sundays, and always look forward to it. I know you've had a bad week, and I'm sorry about that, mate. I really hope things get better for you, as it seems to be one bad thing after another right now. Thanks for playing Mushroom Soup. That's the game that I played of his. I really enjoyed that video, and have watched it 3 times now, because I like seeing you die. See what I mean? With friends like these, hey, that's what I get. I like seeing you die. Anyways, over to the questions. Let's see, question 1. Question 1. I know you don't have much time for gaming right now, but do you have one game that relaxes you? Question mark. I am a bit of a sucker for farming games, and my relaxing game of choice right now is called Roots of Pacha? Roots of Pacha? It's a pixel art game where you're a farmer back in prehistoric days. Does that mean you could just get suddenly eaten up by a Tyrannosaurus Rex? That sounds lovely. Thanks very much. I don't know whether I'll look into that one or not. Relaxing games. I must admit, I wish I was playing more games. I started off a run of doing Kingdom Come Deliverance and Atomfall, and I even bought Expedition 33, is it called? And I haven't even loaded that yet. I have, but I've only done the tutorial. And about the only game that I've switched on, a very, very quick games. So I've played iRobot a bit. But when I was relaxing with games, I'd play some MMOs like Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2, because they had some normal everyday life elements to them, you know, like going to your home, weeding, you know, getting rid of weeds in your garden, growing crops, taking the crops, making potions with them, mining some gold and some silver, and then selling that for money to then buy more seeds and more quality of life stuff in my home section of the game. And all of that sort of stuff was sort of like relaxing, because there was no trying to do the missions and trying to do battles and all of that sort of stuff. I used to like playing things like Craft the World and Minecraft. They always took my mind away from things. All of those sort of types of games I liked, along with some mining games. You'll probably notice that I used to play some of these games where you dig and you get gold, and you had to get it back to the top of the mine before you got attacked, etc., etc. And Minecraft was more building and surviving during the night. So all of those sort of things had a gaming element, but were more relaxing, and I liked those. There isn't one particular one, really. There definitely isn't one at the moment. But I might need to think about doing a little puzzle game or something that I could just put on and makes me think, and just, you know, something like Tetris or something, you know, go back to the well and do something there. So question 2, what was your favourite drink or sweets when you were a kid that they no longer make? For me, it would be Cresta Pop. It tasted awesome, and the slogan was, "It's frothy, man." All the best, my friend, and please give my love to your mum. And of course, I always do to anybody that puts that. I do pass that on, legitimately. Drinks. Well, I must admit, I used to buy Cresta. I did like the polar bear type with the sunglasses, with the saying "It's frothy, man." I used to like our White's lemonade as well, and I used to like milkshakes. I think the only milkshakes they do now is like Nesquik, but there you go. So drink wise, it's a bit less. There's plenty out there, but they're nothing like the kiddies drinks that we used to have, like Kiora and all of that sort of stuff. Sweets, well, it's what they don't make anymore that's difficult. I mean, I've always turned around and said I used to like those fruit salads and blackjacks, but apparently you can still get them in certain specialized sweet stores. But I don't think I've seen fake candy cigarettes. They used to make these fake candy cigarettes. They were like white sticks with just a little coloured red dot at the end that you were supposed to sort of like suck and fit as if you were having a real cigarette, which is bad for kids, and I can understand why they don't make them anymore. But they used to make some deluxe ones that had actually paper around the candy, and the paper was edible, or I think it was edible. I had it anyway. It used to get wet, and I'd just eat it. So there was fake candy cigarettes. There was a tube of toffees called Toffo I used to like, and they used to do them as normal toffee, but my favourite ones were the ones where they were flavoured, and they had things like banana flavoured toffee and raspberry flavoured toffee, and they all came in a little tube called Toffos. Equally, I like Chewits, and I always remember the advert for the Chewits because it was a big Godzilla creature, and it was eating all of the. It was done in stop motion photography, and it was eating all of the city, and its slogan was "Chew it," or I think it was it "Chew it," more chewier than a Barrow and Furnace bus depot, which always used to make me laugh. Don't think there's much else. I'll tell you what. Just like there are chocolate bars like Freddo, I used to like something called a wildlife bar. Much the same, probably the same company. It used to have a picture of an animal on the front. When you opened it up, it was the same animal inside, but it was the artwork for the animal that I used to like. And they used to have polar bears and grizzly bears and tigers and all of that on the front. It was called a wildlife bar. I used to like those. I think that's about it, really. Can't think of anything else. No. So, anyway, maybe that's brought some memories back. Maybe the wildlife bar has brought back some memories. Toffo, for definite. I mean, Toffo just instantly comes to mind. I used to like those. So thank you very much, and salute, my friend, and thank you. Please keep up the good work on your channel. I'm so glad that you're back. Wonderful. So we'll continue. And the next one is Ian Hill, The Ramblings, and he's put, "Hi Delboy, another great blog. Just wishing all the best in your circumstances to you and your mother. I'm so glad that our weekly Wednesday live chat provides you with some escape for a few hours. It's always an enjoyable experience, and oh my God, man, I can't say how enjoyable it is to me, and all the people that are in your channel on that day talking to us, every single one of them, an absolute diamond. Thank you so much, and I will be thanking them personally when I'm on this Wednesday. I was gifted the film Mulholland Drive, which I was looking forward to watching this from the director of The Brilliant Elephant Man in June 1984. However, all the critical acclaim it's had, I just feel it's so overrated. The running narrative jumps around from dream to reality, and for me, it became too confusing. I had to learn from the extras what it was all about. I felt let down by it, and that it was trying to be too clever. The two leading actresses were, in my opinion, the best thing about it. I didn't want to watch an art house piece of cinema in the mainstream. Maybe once again, as I get older, my mind is also getting very set in its ways. So yeah, I understand where you're coming from with that, but I do expect this type of film from David Lynch. Mulholland Drive was a slow burn for me. I bought the deluxe version not that long ago, and it is a weird film, but if you can get over it and you like things like Twin Peaks, Mulholland Drive can be an enjoyable watch, but I do think you have to be in that mindset. If you weren't in that mindset, then you're going to come away going, what was all that about? You'll be like that. You'll be going, well, that's a couple of hours I'm not going to get back. Do you know what I mean? And it definitely requires another watch, but I can understand if you never do go back to it, it's that first impression thing again. Maybe you'll come back to it in a couple of years' time, I don't know. But I would say if you watched it again, you'd get a different impression. Even slightly, it would be slightly different. In remembrance for VE Day, I watched a Second World War film, Von Ryan's Express, 1965, starring Frank Sinatra, with a film score by someone who you always mention. I don't know who you're talking about there. I have no idea. Goldsmith. LOL. Enjoyed watching this film, and with a steam train involved, you can't really go wrong. Yeah, you and Colin and Ponder, yeah. Love trains. I haven't mentioned the chair. I'm sure you've had enough of it. Yeah, I have. Definitely. My question this week is, what's your favourite inventions that have helped to improve our lives? Wow. How loaded a question is that one? A great one. Everybody's got their own minds in regards to what inventions have helped us. That I've always found them to be double-edged swords, every single one of them. The mobile phone is a great invention, but it's now more a camera than a phone, and that's the double-edged sword of phones, and of course social media that goes along with it. So let me think. I mean, obviously my career is computers, so I will have to turn around and say maybe the silicon chip, or at least the home computer, is a great invention that's definitely given me a quality of life. So there's one. In many ways, the microwave oven. The amount of times I've been rescued, I think, a little bit by having something happen to me, getting late, and I've needed something to eat, and was always going to be toast or a sandwich, and the microwave has come to the rescue and allowed me to heat up some soup or something. So yeah, I'd say the microwave. I suppose really I have to look at myself and go, what do I look at every day? So I'm looking at, so you may look and you'll probably see, what's he doing looking? So I'm looking around, and the one thing that I have to look, I would say I do look at, is my watch, and it's a health watch. It's one of these triathlon Garmin Fenix watches, which measures my heartbeat, how many steps I've done a day, all of that sort of stuff. And it is a driving force watch. It basically encourages me to do more each day. I will beat my step count from yesterday. I will relax more and not be so stressed that this watch is telling me that I've had a stressful day. I will try and get more sleep. It's told me that I've only gotten 2 or 3 hours sleep. There are driving forces that this watch constantly pushes me to be a better person, or at least do more. So, plus it's got an alarm on it, so it wakes me up. So yeah, I will say that the health watch, not so much the Apple watches and Samsung watches, but the more totally 100% geared towards health watches that Garmin do. As an example, there are other companies out there I'm a big fan of. The only downside I find with them is they are a company that are very throwaway. It doesn't matter how expensive the watch is. It could be £600, £700. They design them so that you don't change the batteries in them. When the batteries run out or there's no more charge going into them, they expect you to buy another one. And therefore, you're going to be every couple of years buying their latest model. Like I say, it's a minor thing, but it's a big thing if you can't afford these things. I mean, I'd be quite happy to have this watch for the rest of my life, and change the battery in it. But that's the whole probably reason why they are a throwaway company of a sort. So salute, my friend. I hope that's given you some answers to what you want. You've ended with all the best, and have a reet grand time, as you always do. Thank you so much for that. And salute, absolutely brilliant. And we're moving forward now. We're going to Colin Jones, aka Ponder. And he's put, here's how he started. To aid legibility, you should type out your notes and print. Oh, wait. That's a little joke because of the conversation last week. Seriously though, you could use something like Google Notes and read from the screen or phone, yeah, and I must get round to using this damn teleprompter type thing. I've still not got around to it yet. It's just so many things going on. I wish I could juggle my time better. That chair saga is something else. Amazon are normally top class for customer support. And I agree. And I still think possibly Amazon are okay. I must remember that I bought it through Amazon using a third-party seller. But they should have known that before they actually went down the route that they did with telling me that everything was going to be all right and that I'm totally in the right and this seller's all in the wrong and all of that sort of stuff. So, yeah. Quite a bit there with your mum. Glad you're settling into some sort of routine, yes. And until this week, I would have said that the routine was getting better. A few setbacks this week, but I continue to move forward. Keeping her happy is the main thing now, as you did say, and that will always be the goal. You said, I remember the Commodore MPS 801 printer. Yes, I had one of those. It was awful, but it was cheap, and it did actually work. It could be used for monochrome graphics too, and I had some programs that actually printed these. And then you put, I turned my bathroom extractor fan off at the switch because it stays off too long, too darn noisy. Yeah, I talked a little bit about the extractor fan in my bathroom, and then it's so old now that when the light is on for 30 seconds, it switches itself on. But as soon as you turn the light off, even if you only had the light on for just 30 seconds, several minutes before it's off again. Yeah, it needs replacing. It's been there 30 odd years. I do clean it. Obviously, you know, there's a grid and you can take that off and take all the fluff and everything out of it. Disgusting sometimes in there. So you continue. I could feel your pain through this blog. Take care of yourself, my friend. I know it's tough being the linchpin, but you do have to look after yourself too, or you could break. I know this from personal experience, and that wasn't anywhere near what you're going through. So once again, take care, my friend, and I'll try. Like I said, everybody's been really good. Very few negatives coming through to me, and you know, I'm hoping that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So you come away with a daft question this week: bubble bath or no bubble bath, and has this changed over time? I have bubble bath when I have a bath. I'll tell you the difficulty. I don't know if I've mentioned this before already. Our bathroom is upstairs. My main, you know, just the toilet and washing facilities I do have in my own room, which is in a corner that you can't see. It's to the right of that door that you can see in the corner there. It's got a shower in there, but it's broken. But the bath, I had severe problems using when I got sciatica. It's a deep bath, and the arms or the rails are high up, you know, in the wells. So you're sort of like this to pull yourself up, which is quite difficult. And I've kept meaning to get some rails that would be inside the bath lower, but it was one of those things that was always on the back burner and I never got round to it, and it's all of that sort of stuff. So, you know, showers are what I generally use, and the bathroom had a shower head. So when I do have my showers now, I do tend to find I'm going upstairs and using the shower head that's on a bath tap. Do you see what I mean? Which is not as nice as having a power shower, which I so miss. So miss. I could do with one of them. Oh, it'd be so refreshing. But staying clean is staying clean, and that's what you do. So I do what I can. And I do love shower gels. Oh, they so refresh me. Oh, anyway, salute, my friend. Thank you so much. Keep up your blogs. They're absolutely wonderful. Really enjoy those. Then I've got just a single line message from LGH86, who's just happened to mention that the chair could possibly be given to charity. And it could. It's quite true. What was happening last week was more to do with venting and telling the seller how much in the wrong they were, rather than thanks very much, I'll take your money on board, and by the way, I'll give it to charity, thank you so much. Because it was more about, you horrible supplier bastard person, you, and now you're asking me to get rid of the chair as well for you, you lazy git. And so it was more an anger thing rather than not considering a charity outlet. So thank you very much for your comment. Totally agree. Charity is an option. Be looking into that. We move forward. Oh, salute, eh? We move forward now to my friend Martroid, who's put, don't worry, Dal. That whole chair palaver would have been enough to try the patience of a saint. I'm just glad that you at least got your money back, which we did. I would love to see one of those wow moment videos from you. The Main Meister and Down the Rabbit Hole ones were both great and varied, and I know you'd come up with some good stuff. I totally agree on your Yar's Revenge colour bar too. Awesome stuff. And I probably will do that. I'll try and do that. It's all a matter of time at the moment. And speaking of time, 30 minutes has gone by and I do need to check my mother again, so I hope you don't mind. But so far the blog is going well and I'm enjoying myself. So thanks very much for that. I'll be back in a second, and I just want to say to Martroid, salute, my friend. I do hope we get to chat and do some things again soon. And it won't be very long before you need to supply a game for me. So I'll just pause this and I'll be back in a moment. And we're back, and I got my mum a cup of tea and all of that sort of lovely stuff. So we'll continue with the shout-outs, and let's hope we're on to a home run now. And we get to Gan's teeth. And he's put, it's shocking that Chairgate has lasted this long, and they're ultimately just fobbing you off. Gone are the days when companies had quality control and respected their customers. Sorry to hear it's been an exhausting week for you, and wish you and your mother all the best for the week ahead. And he continues, I was surprised to hear that the Five Doctors occasionally gets a bit of a bashing from some fans. I think it's brilliant. Terrence Dix did an incredible job making it work so well with the huge amount of characters. It's just a shame Tom Baker wasn't up for it at the time, although I do find the publicity photos using the waxwork dummy absolutely hilarious. Yeah, it brings back such memories when I watch Five Doctors, and there are so many different versions of it now. They've redone the graphics again for the anniversary edition that came out with the Peter Davison box set, 20th box set. It was absolutely brilliant to watch it again. I've always enjoyed it. It does get a bit of a bashing, probably because of its simplistic story and its fan service. But to me, nothing wrong with a bit of fan service, because it was of its time. It was the 20th anniversary at the time. We're in the very early 80s. I was just in my teens when that came out. So, I loved it. Thought it was absolutely brilliant. And I dare say there are people in their teens now that watch Doctor Who even now that say similar things and don't understand what these old codgers are saying when they in regards to what Doctor Who is now. And this is where I've always walked that fine line where I've said, it's just not for me. But I still think it's gone too far in one way now. It's not fun. The fun element's gone as far as I'm concerned. The one thing that niggles me, and it continues to niggle me even now, is every time Doctor Who is on and you've got the newest Doctor there, and he, the character is playing, the actor is playing the character as best he possibly can with the script, he's got a different set of clothes on every week. I used to love the fact that I recognised the Doctor because he had his long scarf, or he had his velvet sort of like jackets on, or whatever. What's all this? Oh, well, I think I'll just go to the wardrobe and put a different shirt on this week. What's that going to be like for cosplayers? No. Not thinking at all is my thoughts on that. Maybe I'm wrong. Possibly am. I put my hands up, But thanks very much, Gans T, for your comment. Absolutely brilliant. And we get to Tony York, who's a great bloke who I've met through Ian Hill, The Ramblings. I have a sort of a rant at him every week. He's such a nice bloke. He's such a generous bloke. That's the thing. And I just take the piss out of him because every week there's got to be something that's been sent in the post to Ian Hill, which isn't true at all, but I make it out that it is. And I keep telling him that he's the only one that keeps the Royal Mail, the Royal Mail going, and that their shares must be pushed high up into the roof because he uses them every day to send stuff to Ian Hill. But anyway, let's see what he's put today. He's put, "Hi Tel. Firstly, I envy you with that delicious looking homemade cookie. Yes, I had a homemade cookie given to me by my sister. Managed to cut out cakes and biscuits completely a couple of years ago to help get some weight off, which has thankfully worked. I understand how you feel with regards to keeping your mum with such tasks as toilet routines. It did become easier for me over time when my mother needed similar help, and I hope the same happens to you. I think the care company is trying it on with charging for the extra day. Seems to be their fault, and they should just accept it. As for that chair, I bet you feel like ceremoniously setting it on fire to it in the back garden. All the best. Look forward to chatting on Wednesday." Yes, and so do I, matey, and thanks very much. Couldn't agree with you more with all of that stuff. Yes, setting fire to it in the back garden. I'll probably have the neighbours come out and say, "What's all that black smoke, you bastard," etc., etc. But yeah, the amount of things I've wanted to do with that chair, burning them was one of them. But salute, my friend, and you make Wednesdays so much fun for me. Thank you so much. And we move to Wee Bob Art, and salute, my friend, by the way, to Tony there. Wee Bob Art said, "I'm about halfway through, but figured I would leave a comment before I forget. I hope the week ahead goes well. Question for next time. Can you think of a movie where the music just didn't fit and you felt it distracted from the enjoyment? Might be a difficult one, as I'm struggling to think of one. Anyway, sleep for me now. Work tomorrow. Have a good one." And I did give him a quick answer because I wanted to think more during the week, but just possibly a bit like Wee Bob Art, where I don't think he's added any more to the comments since. I haven't really thought too much, but I put as a quick answer, quick answer, but I'm going to give it some more thought. Ladyhawke. I love the soundtrack, but it does not fit well. I have the expanded Ladyhawke soundtrack. That's how much I really do like it. Like Legend, that has also 2 scores. One by Tangerine Dream and one by Goldsmith. I prefer the Goldsmith one. I will expand and have some more next week, which I don't think I have. Let me see if I can think of another one. Doesn't fit. The soundtrack doesn't fit. You see, 2001's got classical music. It fits. I've loved all the Star Trek scores. The Jaws scores are sublime. You see, it's very difficult. The difficulty for me is that it's never generally that the score doesn't fit. It's usually too much music where there should have been a bit of quiet. or too little music where there should have been more. And it's that happy balance between the two that films usually get wrong. No, I can't really think of any more. Superman fits, all of that, all of that works. So yeah, I'm going to stick with Lady Hawk. It's a boppy piece of music with some orchestra, but it's set in medieval times, and it doesn't really fit. I mean, you only have to just look at the score for Conan and go, wow, now there's a score for for a sword and sorcery type film. And then this one is a boppy sort of like prog rock type album to the film. But it's a great score. I mean, I've got it and I listen to it all the time, and I bought the expanded score from La La Records. It was a double CD. Brilliant it was. So hope I gave at least a bit of an answer for you. And salute, my friend. Thanks for all the community questions, all the joy, all of your talent that you do in your art. Absolutely brilliant. And lastly, we've got Seb's Place, who's just put one line, but it's enough. It says, love Tombstone as a film. What's your favourite Western? I got 3 I usually turn to, but there are so many Westerns that I love. So there's Once Upon a Time in the West, a Leone film, brilliant. The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, another Leone film, brilliant. How the West Was Won, which is an unusual Western film because it was done with 3 cameras, sort of like, and they stitched the image together to give a huge panoramic display, ahead of its time, but it's very hard to mask that joining phase of stitching those 3 frames together. But they did, for the time that it came out, they did a marvelous job. But there are so many other westerns. I've mentioned, Fistful of Dollars, A Few Dollars More, The Shootist, The Searchers, Tombstone, as we mentioned, Pale Rider, from last week, Unforgiven, The Quick and the Dead, a really sort of like unusual classic is what I call The Quick and the Dead. Usually because Gene Hackman's performance is just sublime in that film. So yeah, Westerns, such a big genre and such a big part of my childhood. You know, I used to watch on TV The Lone Ranger, Champion the Wonder Horse, all sorts, Bonanza, The High Chaparral. Westerns were big for me because my dad and I would watch them together, and he wouldn't miss one. Every bank holiday there'd be a Western on, and he'd make sure he got time to watch it. Oh yeah, and if he couldn't, he'd record it and watch it later that day. Marvellous. Weren't video recorders the best? And that is everything in regards to the shout outs. So absolutely marvellous. In the comments, thank you so much. Absolutely brilliant. So we're moving on now to what I've watched on YouTube. And as you know, as I've moved in with looking after my mum, there's less and less that I've watched, but I've tried to watch all of my friends' stuff as best as possible, and then anything new that I can crop up with. But the newest stuff, it's less and less each week because I can't keep up with the stuff that my friends do. So you know that there are 4 that I usually have in the watched on YouTube grouping that are sort of like religious to me to watch each week, and those are This Week in Retro, Techmoan, The Gadget Show, and Chronologically Gaming, for which The Gadget Show is still on hiatus. But This Week in Retro was the first week we saw without Neil, and it did feel different. It didn't seem the same. It didn't engross me as much as it does with Neil there. So he is going to be missed. But I think it's just a matter of change, and it's a matter of getting used to it. And I'm sure it will be back to, oh yeah, you've still got to watch this each week. So their three stories this week were Anti-Piracy Piracy, What a Time to Be Alive, and Weren't Writers Antisocial Enough Already? And there was a couple of things in there that I found engrossing. So, I mean, it's not like it's changed its format in any particular way. The subjects were a little bit lackluster this week, and that might be one of the reasons, not to do with Neil itself. But it did feel different, I have to say. But still a worthy watch. And Techmoan, he's back, and he did a Singer's 1970s multimedia briefcase. Now, what we mean by a briefcase is this all-in-one thing that a salesman would use to sell a product. And what it was it was a tape deck with a sort of like an audio break noise. And it had 35mm film with a backlit projector in the top left-hand corner. And you fed this film through and you pressed play on the tape, and when the bleep occurred, it would move the frame of the 35mm still forward one frame, and you could sell a product like retirement packages or condos in different countries and all that sort of stuff. It was an interesting piece of kit, and he took it to bits and showed the internal mechanism of it. And oh my God, it was like a Fisher-Price play toy, really, with its total plastic case. But it was really engrossing to watch, and it was about 45 minutes long, and I had immense fun being educated and looking at technology from way, way back. When that was coming out, I was playing with Evel Knievel, the stunt bike, when that thing was coming out. So there we go. And chronologically gaming, as you know, is something that I love to watch. He does a live show every day, but next week he's got a week off. He's still in December 1982. It is Christmas, but he's now got round to showing the Commodore Christmas Scene special. It was the first year of the Commodore 64, so I remember that demo very, very well. And he showed that off because it is something in everybody's minds that had a Commodore 64 at one point, is that Santa demo. And we move on, and a couple of new ones. There was a channel called Second-Hand Home Theatre, and of course it was May the 4th this week. So this guy showed off the Star Wars on Laserdisc collection, and it was the YouTube episode was called Star Wars on Laserdisc is a total game changer. And this particular set he showed off is the set that I've got, the one that cost me over £200 when it came out in the mid-90s on Laserdisc, and it was a game changer. I don't want to ruin it for you, go and watch it, but Laserdiscs had step technology, lovely brochures, a fantastic product that was huge, booklets, books, everything in there. You even had the script on some of the discs. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. Happy days of having my Laserdisc player, so I really enjoyed that. Then there was a channel called Buy It, Fix It. He had a faulty Blue Yeti USB microphone and posed the question, can he fix it? And it's the same Blue Yeti microphone that I've got. So, of course, I was intrigued because I'd like to know what's inside it myself. I've never opened mine. So it was great to see him take it to bits, try and find the hidden screws, remove the glued parts down, and fiddle about with all the pots and things inside it to try and boost its productivity in regards to gain control and a lot of other stuff. So that was great. Enjoyed that. And then the last one for this section on Watched on YouTube was Mad Dog Comics, whose channel for this week was called Where to Start the Fantastic Four, the best 10 of the best books for beginners. And that's the important thing, for beginners. Now, I don't usually watch these channels. I tend to find that they're, depending on the age of the person that's talking about it, they'll talk about all the modern stuff and the old stuff won't get mentioned. But it was a good enough list, and I couldn't fault his reasoning behind on why he suggested the books that he suggested. But mine would have had probably a little bit more of a back catalogue from the 70s than his did. His had definitely the 2000s well covered. So that's marvellous. So now we move over to film, TV and soundtracks on YouTube. And we get to my friend Ian Hill, The Ramblings. And as you know, I do a live with him on Wednesday. So, oh my God, how much has he done? Look how much it takes on my page. So he did my top 5 crime thrillers from 1957 to 1950. I think it was 9. Because then he swapped. And he's doing my top 5 comedy films from 1930 to 1933. So he's now moving into the 30s with comedy, and he will move into the 40s and 50s and 60s and so forth and so forth. And it's nice to think back to those years because it will be Laurel and Hardy and all of that sort of stuff. If he went back a little bit before 1930, but you'd still have them around. So I'm hoping to see some of those in there. Other videos this week he did was Doctor Who review of Warriors of the Deep, same year as the 5 Doctors. Doctor Who review, X-Files review season 4 episode 2. So he continues his X-Files review series. A gift package from Sean of Mulholland Drive, which we talked about a little bit earlier. He also did the My Star Trek Collection Part 1, for which he's already put up a gap for parts 2, 3 and 4. So there's obviously going to be multiple parts to this, and that was interesting because it covered the original series and some of the Next Generation and Fringe shows, but not in any huge way, which means I think they're going to have their own section. So that was brilliant. And then live with me on a Wednesday. What more can you ask? Absolutely fantastic. With that, I'm just going to take another break. I do apologise, dude. It's getting warm now, and I just need to splash my face with some water. Won't be a second. Yeah, I just splashed my face, and I have to say salute to my friend Ian Hill, The Ramblings. We had a great time on Wednesday. Absolutely marvellous. And his videos, I tell you, I was really interested in his Star Trek collection because I wondered whether it was equal to mine or better or whatever. And he's got slightly different ones than I've got. So absolutely marvellous. Whichever people's collections you've got, love them, cherish them. They're absolutely brilliant to have. I sometimes just pick up a box off my shelf or out of my crates and just look at the packaging, the artwork, marvellous. Such gorgeous stuff. So we'll move on and we get to Mondo Chalovic Movies, who's my go-to guy for looking at horror stuff. And this week he did 88 films. There's a couple of 4K films that he was highlighting. Night Train Murders and Guests for a Crime. I think that's what it was called. Both 4Ks, both from 88 films. Really enjoyable video. I hadn't heard of either of those films, so absolutely marvellous. And like I say, he really is sort of like horror royalty. You know, I'm not worthy. You know, I really don't know as much of the horror side as he does. And from that point of view, I have to go and stop off every week and see whether there's something new for me to learn. And every week there is. So absolutely fantastic. Then you got Did You See That? Who's just recently got married. I watched a couple of videos from him this week. He did a video called I Stayed at the Capsule Hotel 10 in Japan. Because, yes, he had his honeymoon there, and he happened to mention like I mentioned as well, that he watched Thunderbolts, the film, over while he was in Japan. So that was an interesting video. I like watching these videos in foreign countries and seeing what they have to offer. I've seen these capsule hotels before. Incredibly small, dinky spaces. I don't think I'd get claustrophobia, but who knows? Very, very confined spaces. But he also did an announcement where he's going to do a new series where he's going to have a 1 hour conversation with guest stars each week. But it has to be exactly 1 hour. And even if the conversation goes beyond an hour, the stopwatch will stop it and it will be the end of the conversation. An interesting concept. I think I might have difficulty in the fact of cutting somebody off mid-sentence. But it certainly will hone your conversational skills in regards to keeping things tight. So I wish him well with that. That sounds great. Look forward to watching the first episode of that. And salute, my friend. And we move to Playtendo Guy, who's done a huge PlayStation 5 physical game haulage over the last couple of months. And what a huge haulage it was as well. My God, man. So many games there. And I hope he does get round to playing them all. At the moment, it seems like it's a big collection. And I don't see how you could ever get and give any of these particular games any type of requirement in time that they need. But he's a younger guy and he can play quicker than me, so who am I to say? All I know is it was wonderful seeing all this collection. Salute, my friend, and good luck with everything you do. And I think he did a live stream as well last week, although I missed that. So keep looking at his channel. He's got some great stuff coming out shortly. Then we move to my friend Muckman Movies, who I'm doing a little video myself based on a suggestion of his. And I hope I get to it to finish it soon. It's just all a matter of time. But he did a review of his April movie pickups, for which he had quite a few. And there were some top titles in there. I know for a fact that May is going to be huge for me with the Clint Eastwood stuff coming out. But he picked up some real good stuff in April. Definitely worth your attention. And then we've got Jim Jam Movies and TV, who lives in Birmingham and I've met along with Denny. He did some charity shop pickups like he generally does. It's always a fun half hour to watch, to know just what charity shops are sort of like selling at the moment. And he told a wonderful story about a bloke that he helped out in the store by telling him that next door had a cheaper copy of the one that he was actually looking at on the shelf that he was in currently. How nice it is to actually help a person like that out. I think that's marvellous. And because this is the film, TV and soundtrack YouTube section, I will happen to mention the soundtrack that I've been listening to this week, which is on YouTube. And that is The Martian Chronicles by Stanley Myers. An old 80s science fiction TV miniseries. The soundtrack to me has always been a joy for me to listen to. I'd have loved to have had the record of it back in the day, and you can't find that for love nor money. And I tell you what, even the CD is now out of stock, so YouTube is your best option for it. And The Martian Chronicles is just absolutely brilliant. Can't say any fairer than that. And we're just moving on to the last page now. And what have we got here? This section's called Game and Tech YouTube, and it's mostly my friends that are on my Discord or on Mainmeister's Discord, or I've known for years and I've watched them regularly throughout the time that I've been doing YouTube stuff. So we start off with Down the Rabbit Hole, and he's got 3 cracking videos. One says Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. Now that's more like it. That's what the actual episode is called. Another one he's got is called 5,000 Subscriber Special. Yes, he reached 5,000 subscribers this week. My God, he is the highest numbered subscriber I think I've got. I don't tend to subscribe to the larger ones. But yeah, there's a couple I might be talking out my arse a little bit here. But 5,000, what a substantial number. Well done. I had to leave a comment for him on that. And then he did a build in a console. I'm just trying to think. I think it was called GRS. I think that's what it was. GRS Build Arcade Killer. Now no need for New Way Toys, which is the New Way Toys is the arm that makes these little portable arcade machines in the shape of an arcade machine, but the joystick and everything all works, and you can play games like 1942, Ghosts and Goblins, The Simpsons, amongst many more. So, and Dragon's Lair, the Laserdisc even. So yeah, absolutely marvelous. I really did enjoy those videos. Fantastic. Moving ahead, we get to Robert's Retro Gaming, and oh my god, man, calm down, will you? The amount of stuff we got here. It's got No Man's Sky episode 39, Dwarf Fortress episode 20, Minecraft Play episode 142, ZX Spectrum video review of Batman, Atari 8-bit reviews of The Final Fight, Stellar Shuttle, and Video Regrets. So there's some absolutely corkers there. Absolutely really enjoyed myself on there. I think there's another game as well called Dimension X, but I think that's only just gone up. So definitely worthy of your attention. The next one is Steve's Gaming. You bastard, fucking hate you little shit. Who I have to do every week, and he's brought out some cracking stuff as well. Games to play before you kick the bucket is one of the videos. That's marvellous, isn't it? So before you die, make sure you've got a joystick in your hand playing these games. Marvellous. He did Home Soft Discs issues and discs episodes 53 and 54. And he also did a Commodore 64 gameplay edition of all games beginning with the letter Q. And believe it or not, there was more than what we thought. I thought there wouldn't be more than 2 pages, but my God, there was a few more. And they were still coming out after his stream ended. So that was marvellous. And we moved to Colin Jones, a.k.a. Ponder, in just a moment. Won't be a second. Just a few more to go now, and we're getting to... I think we did Steve's gameplay, but I'm just going to do it again because there was only a couple there. There's games to play before you kick the bucket, which I thought was a great title. Home Soft Discs 53 and 54, and Commodore 64 games starting with the letter Q, which I thought there would only be a few, but there was a couple that weren't there, like Quicks, but I think it was because he was looking for ones that were snapshots, not tapes and discs. So maybe he'll go back to that, but that was brilliant. Salute, my friend. So glad that you're back. I hope I did well with playing the game that you asked me to play. I really did enjoy Mushroom Soup more than I thought I was going to. Sounded very much like it was going to be a cookery program, but there we are. We get to Colin Jones, aka Ponder, and he did the 3D print overkill blog. Yes, Colin does a blog every couple of weeks, and he did a 3D print sort of like edition of his blog. It was, don't get me wrong, it was still a blog, but it was a 3D print one. And then he did his normal high score stuff, and oh my God, I'm really interested in one of them. Tuber's High Score Challenge Raiden Fighters, which is Raiden, so I wouldn't be particularly good at that one. But Mainmeister's High Score Kerfuffle, Juno First. Oh, I love that game. Juno First. Yeah. Love that as well. And definitely worth a watch. It's great. It's very therapeutic watching people play games, by the way. Marvellous. And so moving from there, I moved to another person who plays games an awful lot on his live stream, and that is 20th Century Gaming, my friend Mark, who did the top 10 shoot 'em ups, and he did an actual stream as well last night, which unfortunately I only caught the end of because I was looking after my mum. But really enjoyed what I see playing. He was playing, I think, Cybernoid when I actually got to see him play. That was brilliant. Moving to the last two, there's LFC Gamer and Vlogs, who did another Vlog blog on the 6th of the 5th, 25. So if you love your blogs, go and see that. He's basking in his football team's glory as they won the Premiership. So absolutely marvellous. Keep basking in it, matey. You know, enjoy those wins as much as you can. My particular team are in the playoffs and they didn't do well in their first game. I think that'll be the end for my team for this year. So my best of luck will be for the other team, but it's not the end yet. There's still a game to go, and you never know. They might still be in the playoffs. We'll see. And then we've got my friend Alan Mainmeister, who I was so touched by his better late than never waffle that I sort of got him a little gift that I hoped would help him and encourage him to look at life a little bit differently, and maybe even do the odd waffle on the spur of the moment if he carries this little gift around with him. We will see. All I know is he's been having a bad time. We haven't been able to chat to know at all what his problems are. Of course, he knows mine by my blog, but I hope to get caught up with him. He did say he was going to give me a call. Maybe that'll happen. I don't know. It's very difficult. People that phone me at the moment are sometimes I'm not at my phone, or I'm asleep, or whatever, or I'm busy with my mum. So it's very difficult. But anyway, not taken away from his fantastic channel, for which he did 2 Friday blogs, therefore, one that he forgot to upload and one that he did later on. And then he's done a couple of Sensible Soccer live streams this week, which have been really fun to watch. I'm not a big Sensible Soccer fan. I used to love playing it. I was useless at it, but always enjoyed playing it, and it's great watching him try and battle the elements to try and win against some of these other Scottish teams. And that's the end of the written part of the blog, which is why I moved my pad to one side. So we'll move to the overhead cam, and I'll just show you off some things that have turned up this week. Not so much this week. Thank God, probably, because I can't afford it. One is a pre-order that took an absolute age to come through because it went out of stock. I got the message saying we cancelled, and then I ordered it again, and it said we've put it on back order for you. And it finally came this week, and it was Jack Nicholson's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, a deluxe edition from HMV, which is why it struck me really weird how this ran out of stock when I ordered it, before it was, as a pre-order. But you get some fantastic stuff here. Look at this. It's a thick deluxe edition of a fantastic film. Still not 4K. I think that ought to be rectified now. But I'll just hold it up to the camera and you can see exactly what you get here. Look, some of the special features in that. There's a pack of cards in there, some art cards. Looks like a book. And of course the film itself, which I've got many times already. But I had to have that. And it went out of stock very quickly. I don't know if it's back in or not now, but if you can get that, please do so. A standout series on Sky earlier this year was Dune Prophecy. So the steelbook of the first season is now out, and it's a beautiful looking edition. Definitely goes with all my other Dune steelbooks, for which I've got them all. I think just about. I haven't got obviously them all, as in I've got a Japanese release or something, but I've got steelbooks of everything June, including the very first June. And then one that turned up this week, which I'm really looking forward to because all my friends have seen it and I haven't. And that is Anora, which is the Criterion 4K edition. And it looks stunning. I've been told such good things about this. So I'm looking forward to watching that. It obviously did well in the Oscars. And something I bought in the sales, I'm just going to not show this off, but just to go to show what sort of books I do read. They're mostly reference books. I've got this huge tome. This is the sort of thing I usually buy. This was in the sale because it's damaged. I don't know if you can see in the corner, look. And if you look through the book, you'll see that there's no problems, but they've miscut it. And that's all the way through the book. But it was half price. I'm happy with that because it is just a reference book. So it's the top 40 charts. What does it say on the back? I think it's from 1960 to present. I don't know what they count as present. So I'll have to have a look at that. I doubt it's 2025. But here we go. And you can see it's definitely weekly. Look, week ending 27th of April, week ending 4th of May, week ending 11th of May. So it is every week. And that's going to be great reference material for me. Even if I just wanted to do, say, a quiz for a pub one day and just wanted to put in some interesting little snippet of chart history, it really is a lovely sort of book. And those are the sort of books that I sort of like read. I'm forever sticking my nose into reference books. And that's all that's arrived this week. Other than to say what a challenging week this week has been. I so need to relax. So need to have some good luck, some good news, some conversations with people I haven't spoken to in a long time, just to take the edge off of what's happening. At work, I didn't mention what's going on too much at work, but we've had a new person come in. He's been he's in his first 2 weeks, and he's off next week on holiday. And already he's taken me off of one job that I used to do and not really filled it with something else. So I worry a little bit still about work, but it's far, far down my list of things to be worried about. There isn't really much else sort of like to show you. I'm sorry that there are no trailers this week. I will say that because there were very few things that came through in the post this week. And to be quite honest, I'm so looking forward to the Clint Eastwood stuff this month that I'm sort of glad that it was a quiet week in a way. But I'll tell you what I did do this week. That top 40 charts book came through and it was half price. It made me start to look at some of my CDs, which are in the garage. So I did go out to my garage and I found this in the garage. So here's something that's I haven't seen in must be 6 years. 6 years. And this was back in the day when I was buying everything that I could from this particular artist, and I'm pretty sure you'll know who I'm going to be talking about now. And that is Elton John Jewel Box. But look at this, it's a behemoth of a box. Look, it's got it even there. Look, Jewel Box. Precious gems and sparkling collectibles from the world's favourite singer-songwriter. 60 previously unreleased tracks. And it's on 8 discs, including a hardback book. So just like my War of the Worlds, which is a hardback book with the discs at the back. This is exactly the same thing, only it's Elton John. Now, you know, each to their own. Some people will say, oh, what do you want to listen to that Elton John? He's boring, blah, blah, blah. I grew up with this guy. In this guy's music, and I tried to imitate him when I was trying to play piano. I've got thick little fingers. I'm lucky if I can get an octave. Look, if you look at my span, it's not particularly great. But, you know, I keep trying, and there are people that you sort of like influence you and encourage you to do better. Elton John just happens to be one of those people. So absolutely marvelous. I forgot I even had this. And I'm so looking forward to opening that up now and listening to it, because as you can see, it's sealed. I haven't even opened the damn thing. So, you know, that's bit for my week. I hope you've enjoyed this blog. I know it's a bit shorter than normal. Maybe that's good for you. I'm hoping to bring back the trailers next week. I'm hoping to have some better news. What I will say to you is we've got some, if you're in the UK, we've got some fantastic weather. Please do enjoy some of the beauteous things that are going on in life outside, and that could be even just living in your garden. Absolutely fantastic. Me, I get my car back maybe tomorrow and I'll be £900 shyer. I tell you what, I felt lightheaded when I was told it was £900 minimum. So much so my hair fell out. Had to get a hair gag in there somewhere because I got my hair cut on Tuesday. And with that, salute. Hope you've enjoyed this. Please, I hope you do continue to watch my blogs. I enjoy doing them. And roll on next week to the next one. Salute. Bye-bye.